Now, MPs have accused the Treasury and HMRC of clear and inappropriate interference with an independent review into the controversial loan charge scheme. The Loan Charge All-Party Parliamentary Group says that new documents show an inappropriately close relationship between government officials and staff working on the independent review. The Morse Review, led by former Public Spending Watchdog Chief Sir Amyas Morse, says ministers failed to strike the right balance between tackling tax avoidance and protecting taxpayers' rights. Well, Greg Mulholland joins us now. He's from the Loan Charge Action Group, former Lib Dem MP for Leeds North West. On the face of it, the emails that have come to light after a Freedom of Information request are fairly damning. Just take us through exactly what they purport to say.
I mean, they're quite extraordinary, and I would suggest that LBC listeners interested in this issue have a look on the website of the Loan Charge All-Party Group. But you see a series of emails that show a completely inappropriate relationship between the Secretariat team and what is supposed to be an independent review. And let's remember that these people were actually employees of the Treasury and HMRC themselves, which in the first place was completely inappropriate. But there's a close working relationship. There's chatting about the review, about its independence. But the significant things, I think, are where the press inquiry that goes to the review, which is dealt with by the Chancellor's own press secretary, who actually says, you owe us beers. And the reply is, happy to line up the beers. I mean, that's considering that this is a very serious policy, a policy that has tragically led to 7 people take their own lives. To have that sort of chit-chat is really inappropriate, and also, I think, to those families, quite offensive. But then you also see that there was an attempt to interfere with the experts being appointed, and indeed at the end of the whole process, there was the permanent secretary of HMRC himself, Jim Harrer, to actually change what's asking for sections of the final report to be removed. So I don't think anyone can have any pretense now that this was a genuinely independent report.
Well, I have never had the Treasury contact me in advance of a programme to give a statement, but they've done that this afternoon because they saw that we were talking about this. And I will read out this very short statement. They say, as these documents show, the Independent Loan Charge Review was fully independent of government. Its recommendations led to significant legislative changes. Sir Amyas had complete independence and full discretion over how the review was run, which stakeholders and individuals it engaged with, and the content of the final report. Now, that is directly opposed to what you've just said, isn't it?
Well, it also bears absolutely no relation to the facts and the evidence. We're talking about 600-odd pages of evidence of internal correspondence that, let's be honest, the Treasury were pretty upset that were revealed in the first place, and so were HMRC. So, as I say, people can look at the report. The emails are there. I mean, I'm reading right now from an email from Jim Harrer himself, and it starts, Dear Sir Amyas, I wanted to raise 3 areas of concern HMRC has with the report directly with you. It goes on to ask for a section to be removed. And then Permanent Secretary of the Treasury also contacted, at the very end of the process, contacted Sir Amyas. So there was an exchange in which, would you believe, the Permanent Secretary of the Treasury, and this is the department whose policy is being reviewed, tells Sir Amyas that the review is of considerable benefit to the government. And that was not why the was introduced in the first place. It was to get the bottom of why such an awful policy with devastating consequences had ever got through Parliament in the first place. And I'm afraid that hasn't been revealed.
Well, Greg, tomorrow in the Commons there's an amendment put down. I think David Davis is speaking to it. We'll talk a bit more about this then. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening. That's Greg Mulholland from the Loan Charge Action Group.